Hello, everyone, and welcome to League Review. I'm your host, William, and today we are talking about the LEC. It is week 3, even though it says week 2 on there, so that was a little whoops. But we are going to be talking about the recap for week 2 and then moving on to week 3 with our power rankings and our predictions. Recap is so far last week we only went 6-4. It was one of our less successful weeks. We started out strong with the Rogue over our Origin over Rogue. Misfits screwed me over both times today, or last week. G2 over Vitality, very easy pick, no big deal. Mad Lions losing to Excel, and then Excel going back and losing to Misfits, like, relatively back-to-back to each other, really made me hate Excel for this week as well. If I had to pick two teams that were my least favorite teams this week, were Excel and Misfits. Fnatic did fine against SO4. Mad Lions beat SO4, Rogue crushed Vitality. Fnatic over SK was fine, and then I picked Origin to take down G2. I was very, very on board with Origin, and man, I was wrong. Man, G2 were not messing around this week. But yeah, let's so far our predictions for this year. We had an 8-2 first week. We had a very solid first week, and we went 6-4 in the second week to finish 14-6 so far on the year. Not bad. That is approximately, if I want to do that, that is a 70% pick rate, so we are above our 66% meme that Idol always brings up. So anytime we're above 66% is a good time for me. And we're going to move that over to make it look a little nicer. All right, let's talk about match review. So that is going to be like that. So let's move that out of the way. All right. Let's talk week 2 right here. Match history. Let's pull them all up. This one might be a little bit quicker because we are starting a little late again because I was playing Legends of Runeterra. Runeterra, I should say. But that game is really fun. I beat through the tutorial and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, I have a podcast I gotta go do. I should probably go do that right now. Oh man, really fun though, so if you haven't tried that, you should play that. Alright. Game number 1. Origin versus Rogue. Origin came out of this game and they smashed Rogue. They never had a disadvantage this game. They had Nuke Duck on the Tristana over the Azir, which I love that pick. It really, you basically always have a range advantage on Azir, even in the late game, and you just bully him so hard in the early game. Tristana is almost like nowhere near the same champion, but almost like if you just think of pure range distance like Azir brings to the table and what Tristana brings to the table, they always bring like super range in the late game that you can just shred people, and Tristana just does that a little bit better in the early game, so she always has a massive advantage on her. So I do really like that pick, as well as having a Gragas against a set. I think it's one of the biggest like side different lane counters, kind of similar to Syndra and Rakan. Let me move this out of the way so I can see chat. But kind of similar to Syndra and Rakan, where Syndra, even though usually in the mid lane, today she did play ADC in this game, but usually in the mid lane is actually a pretty heavy counter to a Rakan engage. But yeah, we had Destiny go 1-1-6 on the Nautilus. I love that. But I mean, if you see here, this game was all decided basically through the jungle. And Inspired played on the Olaf, which was usually good, but Xerxes Gragas, which is so clean. They did give up quite a few dragons at the beginning, but they were giving up those dragons for a gold advantage, which I always agree with. I believe they've talked about this multiple times, and I think the first 2 dragons aren't nearly as important as everyone initially put the thought process in preseason, and people are starting to realize, oh, those ones don't matter as much. If you can get a lot of gold off Rift Herald and tower plates and like just constantly play the lanes and not worry about the dragon objectives as much, which, you know, there is pros and cons to that, because if you're going for plates on bot side, that means you should have priority to get the dragon in the first place. So you can pick the dragon if you want, but I just wouldn't make it a priority, because you're only going to get one of that dragon, and those dragons aren't really relevant. Like I believe it's a 4% increase or so. I know it's 4% in damage from Infernal. I don't exactly what it is. I think it's 4% damage or defense, like magic resist, and armor for Mountain. So that's really not, when you break down the numbers. If you're playing like over the top Malphite, maybe like the full AD team into Malphite, and you're running 800 armor build, and then 4% is going to do something, and even then 4% is only what that would only be 40. No, I can't do math. Hang on. 32. It'd only be 32 armor additional. Like, think about that. And that's if you're full build 7 or 800 plus armor, pure armor Malphite. And it's only 32. So it's not, these dragons aren't that important early game. You don't want to get them the soul too often, depending on the scenario still, because that is another situation too that we've talked about before that might get into later, but not right now. Yeah, but as you can see, they got a bunch. They got both their heralds. They got towers, and then got plates with that. They dominated the lanes with the kills, and then all of a sudden after Rogue got all 3 dragons, instantly they lost back-to-back Ocean Drakes, and then eventually with those 3 straight Ocean Drakes, they didn't even have to get the soul. They won a team fight around Baron and won the game. So Origin just simply outclassed Rogue, which in my opinion was kind of what I expected. I expected Origin to be the top here, and Rogue was kind of a little bit still an elite team, but a little bit below them. All right, we have SK versus Misfits. Oh boy, Misfits, they beat SK pretty bad, and I'm annoyed. I thought this was like, okay, I can't trust Misfits to win the game. Misfits, Vitality, and CLG were like by far my 3 worst teams, like not even close to anyone else. And Misfits showed up this week. They actually went 2-0. You had Bavoy on ADC, actually had a perfect KDA this week, which is very rare for a team on Misfits. Dan played the set. Set into Ornn is okay. There are certain opportunities that Ornn can get away with against it compared to other tanks. I think he's pretty much the only tank that can play into set, in my opinion. The rest of them kind of get, like, Cho'Gath gets hard countered by him, but because he has a lot of peel and he has the unstoppable, so you can't necessarily. Does that stop sets all? I'm unsure. I do know for a fact I've played the matchup once, and I do know when set tries to pull you, you just bellows breath, and then you just instantly, it just ruins that ability completely. So that's not good for on set side. But outside of that, set kind of just has the damage to deal with Ornn. But Ornn is a very strong tank right now. And then, but this game was pretty much all Misfits the whole way. Like, there was a 1 first blood early on, no, they didn't even get first blood. It was a 1-for-1 in the mid lane. But, was that around here, I think, actually? So, it was 1-for-1 right at the beginning. But then, after that, it was all Misfits pretty much. They gave up a few towers here and there, but when they were losing towers, they were either getting dragons or getting another tower for themselves instead. So, outside of that, we have just the whole game. Like, they just had full control of the map. Zoe bubbles just all over the place, making a living hell for the rest of the team. And they had really, really good engage with Ornn into Jarvanul, into Misfortunal, and Rakanal. That's just a disgusting engage lineup there. And then they weren't able to do that. Like, I was just about to say they were about to win with that, but no, they lost with that. That was SK. I've totally blanked there. Everything I gave the good notes for, trash that, because they lost on that. My bad. In my head, they were the blue team there for a second. Oh, no. We're going to throw everything away that I just said. The disengage for that with Xayah ult, Braum stops the engage from Ornn and Misfortune. He's a huge improvement there. And then we have Kiana to pick people off in the back, and Gragas to interrupt anything you're doing. Like Rakan, Misfortune, Jarvan, like, get them out of there if they do get a good engage without Braum. So they have tons of disengage here with Braum and Gragas, and then you just had Xayah, Set, and Kiana just wrecking people. And Febiven actually had a very good game on the Kiana. So that was good. I can't believe, in my mind, for some reason, Misfits was this team. And I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not it. I blame watching all the leagues starting to pick up. I'm starting to watch a lot of league again, which I'm excited. Like Korea today though, oof, that SK or that T1 versus Damwon series was pretty entertaining for sure, but not the highest quality gameplay, which is kind of what we did not expect from that. All right, we'll talk about that next week. Moving on, we have G2 versus Vitality. Speaking of low quality of gameplay, Vitality played today, and they looked ugly. 06, 03, 03, 01, 12. There were actually, I almost wanted to put, spoiler alert for the Boomer of the Week, I wanted to put almost every one of Vitality in here. Because there was, I believe Comp and Jack Troll had a 0 KDA, like a 0.0, and that, but I gave them a benefit of a doubt on they had less deaths than certain other people. Like your 06 Yasuo. This is your solo queue Yasuo that comes in the game. Gets a Phantom Dancer, and that's it. Going against GT and Perks is Lucian, which was 7-0-7, and absolutely disgusting to see. It was gross. He had 17k. He did only 7 or 6.8k damage less than the entirety of Vitality combined. That's how bad of a blowout this game was. So we're not talking about it anymore. Next was Excel versus Mad Lions. Oh boy, Excel just pounced on Mad Lions early. Mickey, Mad Lions leaving the Pantheon open is a big no-no. I do not like seeing this champion open, especially with a team that has a immobile ADC like Aphelios, and you can kind of counterize a little bit immobile, but he's pretty fast with that a face rush, which I believe he had player builds. We can't tell from here, but I'm just gonna say he had face rush because Witch Rise doesn't really bring face rush. But so outside of that, this Rise also didn't build a Rylai's, or the Doinby special of Rylai's and Righteous Glory, so very easier to lock down. And yeah, we're looking 1, 2, 3 kills by what is that, like 2 minutes or so, like 3. Why is that one two? Why is this 2 minutes and 57 seconds? By the way, First Blood 2:57. It's behind 2 minutes. Interesting. So we're at think about like 3-4 minutes at most. Like you already have a 3-0 Pantheon you're dealing with, and you know this game is going to be rough, especially with Elise being super far behind, not being able to do anything in this game. You had Zyra console very strong. Bot lane, especially Rakan going in on Aphelios along with Pantheon, and Gragasol, if he gets a little too far away, they can knock him right back in. Aphelios has really big issues with having to be close range, like semi-close range, and being very squishy with no dashes, so that's why he's much worse than Senna, in my opinion, in leagues like the LEC and the LCS, while Senna actually is not really relevant in like the LPL, which I always find funny because Senna's too boring for them. Senna is not aggressive enough. But yeah, this game was in full control of XL the entire time. And Mad Lions, I was kind of disappointed because I really thought Shadow was going to step up this week, and he did not. I believe, was he my player watch? No, Upset was player watch out for. But and then just the rest of the team. Humanoid, we got to talk about Humanoid before. We'll talk about it in the next game with Mad. But man, Humanoid has had a rough start to the year. Like he looks like the worst player on Mad, which is quite interesting, and being the only player coming back. Next, we have SO4 versus Fnatic. Fnatic just straight up bodied SO4. Forgiven has, speaking of Humanoid having a rough start this season, Forgiven's had a terrible start to him coming back. And we had this question back in week 1, like, is he going to be this like hero that everyone expects, and or a lot of people expect him to be, like, come back? The answer has been a solid no so far. But to be fair, it's not only him for the reason why SO4 is losing so much. Gilius has also been quite bad, to be honest. And Abadange as well has been okay in some of the games, but not all of them. But that's been the best. Dreams has been really bad. Forgiven's been bad. Gilius has been bad. Onwame, okay. And Abadange kinda okay, but that's it. That's all they have to show for this year. They have had a very tough schedule, I will say, and they have a much easier week coming up. But if they don't execute on this week, you're talking about a bottom of the barrel team for sure. This team was supposed to be a test. Like if you could beat them, you're a playoff team. If you couldn't, you're not a playoff team. So they were supposed to be like bottom tier playoffs, and they don't look like it at the moment. They look just like bottom tier straight up. Next, we had Misfits versus Excel. Misfits coming away with victory number 2 against Excel, who already had their great win against Mad Lions. I'm not a big fan of the Morgana pick, personally, into LeBlanc. I guess I know... Isn't Morgana a counter to LeBlanc? Somewhat? I don't know. I guess because the wave clear, LeBlanc can't really roam as well because Morgana's going to clear the wave really fast. And she has lockdown CC with her Q and her ult. And so it does make sense in that, logically. But man, personally, I don't like either of these team comps. Like, honestly, Misfits team comp, I don't feel like should win many games. There is not a single frontline tank on that entire team. Like, Tom Kent is going to be back with Aphelios. You have LeBlanc popping in and out of fights. Lee Sin popping in and out of fights. And, like, Gangplank, I guess, is your front line, which usually you want Gangplank slightly behind your front line with the barrels. But it did work out because Set really wasn't able to get anywhere. Jarvan wasn't able to make anything happen. There was no picks with the Morgana Qs. And Zyra Khan really... So really, if I was to go off draft, I would absolutely say Excel should definitely win this game. Especially against Misfits. Like, I think this is almost a no question win for Excel. And it didn't work. They just simply got out team fought pretty much. Like you saw Dan just pop off on the Gangplank as well as Febiven for a second game in a row, which was very surprising because man, Febiven looked terrible in week 1. So popping off in 2 games in a row, it's got to be a huge confidence booster for him. But yeah, as you can see, they're good one team fight here, one team fight here, one team. They did give up a Baron for that, but they traded it for an Elder or for an Infernal, which is not that much good of a trade personally. But then they won another team fight, got another Infernal, won a team fight, won a Baron, and then just won the game. I mean, Excel was winning the game for the first 20 minutes straight, but it was never by more than 1.5k. So this game was pretty much a toss-up until the very end when they won that team fight around the Baron buff. Next, we had Mad versus SO4. Man, what a throw by SO4 here. I really thought this was going to be finally the game that they win. They initially started out with a small gold lead, but they were giving up a lot of objectives, which I was always kind of worried about. They gave up the Cloud, the Ocean Drake, the Rift Herald, Tower, Cloud Drake, Tower, Infernal, Tower. Like, in that whole time, they had only gotten 1 tower in defense. So they were getting a few kills every now and then. As you can see, they had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kills for 4, but a 2 kill difference. But giving up all of that aggressiveness or all of that towers kind of started out bad and got them down to approximately like a 2k gold deficit early on. But they did come back. They did win a team fight and were able to pick up the Infernal and 2 towers off of it. So all of a sudden they were like right back in the gold. They had a slight gold lead because of that. And then they got 3 more picks and another Infernal. And then all of a sudden they're skyrocketing all the way up to a 3k gold lead. And then they immediately all die. And that is thanks to Humanoid. And you got... The Kiana, Rumble, Rakan, Misfortune, Wombo combo is a gross one, and that is what they lost to, unfortunately for them. And then again, Forgiven on Senna is just not look good. Gilius on Gragas has not look good. Dreams on anything has not look good. Like all of SO4 does not look good, and it is quite a problem for them right now because they are now 0-4, matches their name, but man, they have to really turn the season around pretty quickly or they're not going to make playoffs, which I think was at least, their goal was at least minimum playoffs this year for sure. Next, we have Rogue versus Vitality. Vitality can basically call themselves a team. They are by far, in my opinion, they are way worse than CLG, which is saying something because CLG is CLG. But yeah, we have a bunch of objectives taken at the very beginning outside of the first Rift Herald, which did go over to Vitality, but outside of that, they didn't do anything. They also got Pantheon. The fact that they got Pantheon into Azir, I feel like Pantheon can abuse that lane, should be able to abuse that lane a lot early, and Azir really should be only farming under tower pretty much the whole time in fear of dying. And I know it's a range difference, but like Pantheon has his W to get into range and just kind of instantly pop Azir, in my opinion. So the fact that that didn't happen and that they didn't use the Elise properly there to get a lot more kills there really disappoint me. Again, you had Seiken go 0-4-1. He got an assist this game. You had Comp go 0-1. Jack Troll go 0-2. There wasn't many deaths, to be fair, but they just got outmatched completely because they just let Azir and Senna just farm up for free, get enough range, and then you have Braum, Ornn, and Jarvan. You have Braum to be the backline kind of peel, and then you have Jarvan and Ornn to be the front line, and then you have these backliners that can attack the front line from the back line very easily with Azir and Senna, and then that's it. Like, your only frontliners were Camille and Pantheon. Both are not very tanky champions whatsoever, and Rakan. So they're all instantly get popped, essentially, and that didn't happen often, but they just kind of, because they were too worried about getting popped, that they kind of just played back, and then they just got sieged down. Not good look. Not a good look at all for Vitality, who is now also 0-4. Next we have Fnatic versus SK. Fnatic brought out the Rengar top again from Bwipo. And man, they won this game, but it was not because of Rengar. He did get that awesome solo kill against Sakurai in the top lane, which was like, okay, that's pretty good. And then I don't know if he did anything for the rest of the game. The rest of the team, though, they were doing things for sure. And, like, I believe, yeah, he got first blood, and then he got a kill there, I guess, and he got a kill there. And then the rest of the time was pretty much doing nothing. Yeah, I didn't like the Rengar top pick. I've never liked Rengar top, especially in Pro. It feels like such a specific cheese, and I don't think it worked this game outside of the first blood. But they still won the game, though, for sure. They had the Ornn mid, which we are starting to see pop up a lot more now. We initially were thinking about seeing it, but then everyone playing top. Top, and now we're seeing it a lot mid again, which is kind of interesting to me because it's kind of like Sion mid from seasons past. Like where you just have a very tanky player in the mid lane. You have the Elise, which just popped off against SK's Trick. Even though SK did get the early kill in the mid lane with Trick, the rest I felt like self-made. Played fine, and Reckless and Hylissang just simply out talented Crown Shot and Limit, to be honest. Finally, we had G2 versus Origin. Man, G2 just destroyed Origin until right here where Perks kind of ended a little bit. Perks was dominating this game as LeBlanc. Like, look at this. LeBlanc kill here. No LeBlanc kill there, but LeBlanc tower, LeBlanc kill, LeBlanc double kill, LeBlanc kill, and then he did a little whoopsies. And then by overextending right around here at the... This was Infernal Dragon, so this wall was gone. I wish they would show that on the map, but this wall was gone completely. And he kind of just poked his head out a little bit too much with Mickey. And they just instantly got popped by Xerxes, the Rek'Sai knockup, into the stun, I believe. I don't know exactly what the Silas, but it's a lot of stuns, and then Rumble came in with the damage and kind of cleaned them up. And then because of that, they ended up losing Mickey as well. And then they lost Yankos and Caps as well, who went to go save them. And then all of a sudden the Baron went to Origin, and it was like, oh my god, this is a 700 gold. This went from a 5k gold lead with like just full control of the map to a 700 gold lead and not much to go on. But then even though Origin were able to take 2 towers, I believe they were both mid towers, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes, they took both mid towers right there, and it was like, okay, they're right back in it. They instantly lost the fight, which then lost their inhib tower, and then they lost the next fight right after that as well. And just, was that where Caps like instant popped someone on Senna? And then the fight was just lost after that. From there on out, and they got their base pushed in. It was unfortunate because I saw that throw. I'm like, oh, here we go. I actually have a shot in this game. Because before that, G2 looked disgusting. So pretty much outside of a, let's give it 28 to 30, about a 4-minute gap between the 28 and 32nd minute, G2 looked amazing. And then they ended the game in 35 minutes, but that 4-minute gap in between, they looked very sloppy. But outside of that, they looked very, very good. So we will give them a pass. Wonder also playing Soraka top both games. We didn't talk about that last game because it was against Vitality, so that game really didn't count. But yeah, he played this game as well, and into Rumble, and it's pretty strong in Rumble because it's pretty strong in any melee matchup pretty much. And it kind of sucks to see how it goes like that. Oops, let me move this out of the way. But yes, that is the match history. So let's talk play power learning. Standings. Standings here. We don't have play of the week. I'm debating about using play of the week because I always feel uncomfortable with the copyright situations like that. So that's why there hasn't been one in the last few podcasts. LEC standings, the most recent version, is G2's number 1 at 4-0. Rogue, Origin, and Fnatic are 3-1 apiece. Misfits is 2-2. Excel is 2-2. Mad Lions is also 2-2. And then SK is by themselves at 1-3. And then Vitality and SO4 are sitting at the bottom at 0-4 apiece. Power rankings for this week, week number 3, is a little bit different than the standings, as you can tell. I have G2 as number 1, but they were number 1 previously, and they're staying number 1, but they've gotten a lot further ahead than number 2. Origin is also staying at number 2, even though they lost pretty embarrassingly to G2. I just think that the gap has increased. The gap is no longer closed. The gap has increased between Origin and G2 for sure here. They're still number 2 team in my opinion, but man, G2 is still a force to absolutely be reckoned with. Fnatic moves up to number 3. I think they have actually performed really well after week 1. They had a pretty poor performance in week 1, especially against Origin. But outside of that, they've actually really stepped up and kind of gotten more comfortable with Selfmade, which is a much different jungler than Broxah. Rogue is number 4 after losing to Origin. I believe that they deserve the drop compared to Fnatic. I still think those are the 4 elite teams in Europe right now, and those are the 4 teams you should worry about for any type of championship or possibly make an MSI, though it is currently definitely G2's to lose at the moment. But those are teams that could make a run at it, in my opinion. Excel at number 5, Mad Lions at number 6. They're the 2 teams that are playoff teams, but like there's still a lot of flaws there, you know. There's still like a lot to do with their teams, and they have a lot to learn. But outside of that, like not bad. Not a bad performance so far this year. They've had quite a few mistakes happen, like Mad Lions losing to 2 teams already, and Excel also losing 2 teams, including Misfits. Like a very poor loss to Misfits. Mad Lions have lost to G2 and Excel, which is kind of the reason Excel's number 5 and Mad Lions at number 6. I kind of almost wanted to put Mad Lions at number 5, but I felt like that was a disservice at the moment because I think they're so even with Excel, and if they're even, then I'm gonna put it to tie goes to winner of the match. SO4, even though they are 0-4, are my 7th place team, which sounds crazy because Misfits are 2-2, and there's a 2-game difference, like half the games already. But Misfits, they beat SK and they beat Excel. The Excel win's pretty impressive, but man, the SK win is not that impressive. SO4 is the middle team. So we have the 4 elite teams, the 2 good teams. SO4 is between the good teams and the bad teams. Like SO4, I just realized for the sound in Discord, I was in a channel. But SO4 is... They have potential to be good. I consider them having more potential by the end of the year to be a better team than Misfits or SK or Vitality. So that's why they're kind of 7th right now. But this upcoming week is really going to be that test. If they fail again this week, they're going to be right down there with Vitality for sure. And yeah, then I have Misfits number 8 because they've won 2 games. SK, who lost to Misfits at number 9, and their only current win is against Vitality. And then Vitality, who hasn't won and has looked absolutely terrible, at number 10. Our big award for the week is Fnatic's Reckless. I just realized I put Fnatic there instead of Reckless as his name. I think I did the other one as well. I think the Boomer of the Week is also a certain team instead of a name. So whoops there, but that's Reckless. If you don't recognize him, you probably haven't watched much of you before. KDA was perfect this week. Kill participation of 87.4%, damage percentage of 28.4%, and only a DPM of 487, which was kind of interesting. But outside of that, though, that was definitely a low stat. But the perfect KDA, he's been one of the main reasons Fnatic has gotten right back on track so far this split. The Boomer Award, it goes to Vitality. I fit it in. The whole team got it. But no, this is Oh man, they were so bad. They were so bad. But this is Seiken, definitely a less familiar face than Reckless. But Seiken had a KDA this week, point .1, and he was the third best KDA on his team. Comp and Jacktrol, like I said, both went 0 like 0 kills, 0 assists, a bunch of deaths. But they actually only had like a combined, like I think Comp only had like 3 deaths and Jacktrol had like 4 deaths, where unfortunately Seiken had 10 deaths and was kind of the 0-6 Yasuo, then a 1-4 Pantheon, or 0-4-1 Pantheon. He only had 1 assist, which is the .1 in the KDA. His kill participation was 67.1%, damage percentage of 23.8, and only a 338.4 DPM. Not a great week for all of Vitality. All of Vitality should have been that, to be honest. All right, let's go to predictions for the week. Prediction for game number 1 between Mad Lions and SK is I think Mad Lions will rebound. They did win their last game against, I'm totally blanking, but against SO4. And if I believe truly that SO4 is the team in between the good teams and bad teams, I gotta believe that Mad Lions should be able to handle SK just fine. I really think SK is quite a poor team. And if Vitality wasn't in the league, they would definitely be one of the worst teams so far. They're kind of like Golden Guardians level in my opinion, where Vitality and ZLG are worse than that. Misfits versus SO4. This is where I told you earlier, there's a little bit of a spoiler. SO4 has to get it done this week. They have to get it done. There's no way they can move on this week. After already starting 0-4, they are facing not only Misfits, but they are also facing SK, by far like 2 of the bottom 3 teams in the league. And they should definitely win. On the contrary, Misfits are looking at like they're 2-2, a great week for them last week with the win against SK and Excel, and they're thinking, yeah, we should be, if we beat Excel, we should be able to beat SO4. And all of a sudden, Misfits is sitting here with a 3-2 record coming into 5 games into the season, and that is much better than I think almost anyone would have had them coming out of the gate. So both of them with actually quite a bit on the line. Misfits to prove people wrong, and SO4 to save their season. I'm going with SO4. I think their season needs to be saved a little bit more. I think they're going to be a little more desperate here. Next, we have Fnatic versus Excel. This game kind of worries me a little bit because Excel has shown little bright spots, but I don't think the bright spots usually come from Patrick and Torre. And unfortunately, no Mickey on the Pantheon. Don't give Mickey Pantheon. He's going to be a pretty poor laner for you, in my opinion. But outside of that, I don't think Patrick and Torre will be able to handle Hillisang and Reckless. I think that's going to be just a little bit too much for them to handle in the bot lane. So if Excel's trying to win through the bot lane, it's not going to be against Fnatic. I don't know why Origin is so far down there. Let's get a little more organized here. Next, we have Origin versus Vitality. Like I said, Vitality is the worst Western team in the league right now. Worse than any NA team, including CLG. Barely. But I would even consider Vitality worse than CLG. So, yeah, Vitality that going against Origin, who I think is probably the second best Western team right now. Maybe up there with like Cloud9 and Team Liquid. Like they're probably ahead of them, in my opinion. So, like, yeah, they're going against the second best versus 20th out of the top 20 Western teams. Not even close. Shouldn't be close. Should not be close, I should say. It could happen, but it shouldn't. Next, we have G2 versus Rogue. I really came in thinking that Origin was going to beat G2, and they got crushed, and that was after Origin crushed Rogue. So G2 is probably going to crush Rogue as well, because they not necessarily see them as competition, but they're a little bit of a challenge compared to other teams in this region. So they might try a little. There's 3 teams that G2 might try a little hard on, and they might not be. It could be Rogue, like they're the one outlier, but it's definitely Origin and Fnatic. So maybe they'll be caught sleeping, but I don't know. I don't think so. I think they'll do just fine. It'll be really cool to see Larson versus Perks. I'm actually really excited for that matchup. SO4 versus SK. Like I said before, like SO4 has to win both games this week to save their season. They absolutely have to be 2-4 by the end of this week because they are taking games off of Misfits and SK. And then what do they have next week? They have Rogue and G2 next week. So they're probably gonna be 2-6 realistically. And excuse me, the fact that they're gonna be 2-6, the season's near over at that point. So the best you could do on the first half of the split is a 33% win rate at 3-6, which they could do because they have vitality after that. But that means your only wins would be against the three teams I think are the bottom three teams, and outside, if you don't do that, it's gonna be big trouble because say they even lose one game this week against either Misfits or excuse me, sorry, against Misfits or SK, then you're sitting at 1-5. Like your season is absolutely over by that point. So it's do or die this week for SO4, and I usually like picking teams in do or die situations. I feel like this early or against bad teams actually do step up, and they are able to usually beat bad teams. Vitality versus Excel. This game, I can't pick. It's just like CLG. I can't pick Vitality in any scenario. Realistically, I cannot do it until I see improvement. Rogue versus Mad Lions, two of the young teams going at it. I do think Rogue is the superior young team, though. We will see. Especially, they could actually, they could be a little bit demoralized after their G2 game. If they lose hard to G2, that might demoralize them, and I can see this actually being a little bit of a trap game. I'd watch out on this one, especially if you're a betting type person. But if they do beat G2, in both ways, because if they beat G2, their head might be in the clouds, and they might not prepare as well for Mad Lions, and they might be not preparing well enough for Mad Lions in the first place, because they might be putting all their focus into G2. But outside of that, we have, like, even if they lose G2, they might get a little demoralized depending on how bad of a beating it is. And so this one is definitely a trap. Mad Lions surely has the aggressiveness now to take down Rogue. Like, they kind of showed against G2 early. Like, they probably win that game against Rogue if they're up 4K that quickly. But yeah, that's we will get to see, I think. We will definitely get to see. Next, we have Misfits versus Origin. I've got to go Origin. Origin's going to have a nice... After getting destroyed to G2, this is how you get your confidence back with Vitality and Misfits. And I think they'll be just A-okay after that. I almost kind of want to go back and pick Mad Lions. Do I make that... Oopsies. Do I make that bold... Let's do it. We don't have a bold pick this year or this week. We don't have a bold pick. Let's go out on a limb. I gave you guys the advice that this one's a trap game. Let's actually pick it though. Let's pick it. Let's pick the upset here. Mad Lions to take down Rogue, for Rogue to actually have an 0-2 week after a very solid start. They would all of a sudden be 3-3, which would be a little bit floundering, but I think they would be okay. With Fnatic coming back up. Oh, no, that's next week, sorry. And then they'd have SO4 and SK coming off that. Yeah, they could recover. I'm gonna make a bold prediction here and say Mad Lions actually take down Rogue. And I'm just feeling it. I think that, especially with Larson versus Humanoid, really scares me, though. Shadow is going to step up. And Karzi and Kaiser versus Hansam fan. Yeah, we're just gonna go with it. Like, the Humanoid versus Larson scares me very much. But maybe Humanoid will finally pop off in a game. Like, he's due, right? He's definitely due. So we're gonna stick with it. Look at that change there. And now we have G2 versus Fnatic. G2 is taking down Origin. I do believe they'll take down Fnatic because they are going to try hard this game. So hard. And so will Fnatic, obviously. But when G2 try hard, they're nearly unbeatable. They're unbeatable in Europe. Unbeatable if they were in NA. Probably unbeatable if they were in Korea. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they would be unbeatable in Korea if they try hard. Not so much in the LPL, though. The LPL plays that style quite well, and they're able to adapt to it. But any other region, they're pretty much unbeatable. They're such a good team when they're not trolling. They are so good. So I think G2 definitely goes 2-0 and makes a statement that they made a statement last week against Origin. They're going to make it even more of a statement when they go and beat Rogue and Fnatic this week. All right, our players to watch out for this week, for our eyes on of the week, is Jankos. And that's mostly because they are facing off against Selfmade and Inspired in the jungle this week. Two of the higher end junglers, I would say. He already took down Xerxes last week. And I would say there's probably not anyone with more talent. Yeah, I would say those are by far going against three straight junglers in the game. And three straight best junglers in EU. And we'll see if he'll be able to outperform them. Especially with some high skill level champions like a certain pick that he loves to play called Sejuani, who just got a massive buff. I know it's his absolute favorite champion to play, and Grabs knows that too, and that's why he's probably going to put him on it. If I will not be surprised if Jankos is on Sejuani for back-to-back games in these two, because they're going to be serious games. He's going to be upset with it, but Sejuani could be a very valuable tank for your front line, where then you can put Wonder on some more Rocka and not feel like you're losing a tank by any means. Especially you can have Mickey on something squishy as well in that scenario. So I expect Jankos to be on his favorite tank. I love that he begged Riot not to buff her. She got buffed anyway. They ignored him, and now it's gonna cost him his fun in the LEC. But yeah, that that should do it for this podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow we are going to talk wildcard, which again I still need to I need to watch all the highlights pretty much tomorrow before we do that, because we're doing all 4 regions. Plus, Japan comes in next week, so we'll have some of that to do. And remember, that will be the original style podcast and not as fancy because it's near impossible. It's like about 5-6 hours of work, so I don't want to do that for a wildcard podcast. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for wildcard. And hopefully our picks do well on this week for EU, because EU might be our best region this year. All right, good night.